started so we can get through some of the content and make sure that we get to some Q&A. So as mentioned previously, if anyone was not in the other presentation, my name is Dallin McKee. I actually am our senior manager over our SMB seller engagement effort. So basically, I run account management for more of the small, medium business line like program for North America. Absolutely love it. I've spent some time with advertising the past 3 or 4 years, honestly, with advertising. If you've ever been engaged by anyone that's a growth advisor or an advertising growth advisor, I ran that program, and we've essentially now kind of transitioned that program to more of a full account management approach. And so I'm very passionate about promoted listings. And so glad that we can go over some of this information. So I know that, as I mentioned in the previous presentation, when you're trying to compete as a seller, one of the biggest, like business 101, right? How do you stand out? How do you make sure that your listings stand out amongst the rest? How do you increase your possibility for impressions and sales? How do you really take advantage of the 134 million active buyers that are on the site? Those are all the things that we'll kind of talk about today. I'm going to give you some of my philosophies around our promoted listings products. So kind of what kind of strategies I've seen be effective over the past few years that I've spent in working and supporting sellers in this space. So real quick, for those that have joined, as just a quick reminder, please put any questions you might have in the Q&A section. That's where our individuals who are supporting me with some Q&A will be able to make sure they get to all of the questions and get them answered. And then we'll go through some of the presentation. So let's move right along. So we're going to go through some of our promoted kind of basically advertising 101, promoting made simpler, personalized tools and insights, and then all the ad types available to you. And like I said, I'll give you some of my personal tips and tricks on what I feel is a great strategy for leveraging these particular products. So let's get into it. So first and foremost, I want to bring a highlight to an area that is important. So those that haven't actually seen, previously, we didn't actually in the Seller Hub have our own advertising space. We actually were under the marketing space. And then you had to kind of find the advertising links. We've now advanced our positioning, which is amazing. And now you can find all of your advertising needs directly on a one-stop shop location on the Seller Hub. And this has been a huge win. So very excited to show that to you. If you've not seen that, you'll see all of our dashboards, your personal performance of your advertising. It's a full comprehensive view. Get familiar with it, learn what's available to you. And here you can learn about all the different products and what options you have to promote as well. The other benefit is previously you kind of had different pages where you were launching your different strategy types of campaigns, and now you can do it all in one location. So again, we want you focused on the other aspects of your business and making advertising more simple for you to leverage and use. Advertising is a crucial part of anyone's business. We want to make it as simple as possible for you, and that's kind of what this is designed to do. So that being said, as I mentioned, you can also see dashboards within the space here. There's a couple things I want to highlight. A lot of sellers ask me, how do I know if my advertising is actually performing? One of the key areas to do that is to understand what the actual terminology of ROAS means, a return on your ad spend. Now, the different products will have different expectations, and I'll talk about that a little bit, of different expectations on what a good return on your ad spend is. Essentially, if you look at the example on the screen, you can see it shows in the bottom right square on the upper section a 9.73 ROAS. And that basically means for every dollar you're spending on advertising, you're making a return of 9.73. Now that's amazing, right? Industry standard across any market, anywhere out, not just eBay alone, you're looking at about probably 3 to 4 is considered a very good return on ad spend. Now, obviously, the more up from there you go, the better it is. Now, I will say the different products, again, will have different expectations. You cannot compare, but we'll talk about that as well, but you cannot compare our advertising general strategies with our advertising priority or promoted listings priority strategies to have the same type of a ROAS, because they are different products. And so that's what's a crucial part to understand, is a lot of times people will see your advertising general strategies have a very high return on ad spend. And it's essentially because, as you can imagine, the product doesn't charge you unless it works. So you can imagine there's a positive return and pretty aggressive positive return there. Where the other promoted listings priority product that we'll get into more as well, That is a cost per click strategy, which has a more aggressive positioning for some of your top listings. Gives you more aggressive visibility, but obviously it's more of a pay for the position as a pay for the fact that it might actually work. So those are things to keep in mind. You can't compare the two, but you need to look at and focus on that return on your ad spend to understand the performance of your campaigns. You can obviously take a look at just overall sales in general also. This is important. So often when I'm speaking with sellers, what I tend to see is seller will come to us and say, hey, my sales were doing well and now my sales have dropped. And when we start talking about advertising, we've actually noticed a lot of times that they were using some type of campaign strategy, and that either ended because they had an end date set to it, or they turned it off, not knowing or not thinking about it. And that's a big distinction we've seen is, okay, now your sales have gone way down. Because again, advertising is a necessary part of any business. And it's just a matter of how do you make sure you spend the right money in the right places at the right times to get the most impact and effect out of your spend, right? If that makes sense to you. So let's get into some of the personalized tools and insights. And so some things we've added recently as well is a few different features to help you understand and learn, I guess, when you're starting to really practice how to leverage promoted listings and advertising in general. One is today's recommendations. These are recommendations you'll see in your advertising page on your Seller Hub that help you understand how can you optimize your campaign strategies, whether it's using certain listings that might be available in seasonality or selling well on the site, or changing your ad rates we talked about before. Maybe your ad rates are too low and it's recognizing that the competition is outperforming you when it comes to ad rates. Whatever it is, this gives you some insight to help you optimize your campaigns, which is amazing. Trend-based campaigns. So this is basically an opportunity that we've worked on over the past little while to leverage AI and help you build a campaign based off of the trending information available to us on the site. So it allows you to understand which listings, which type of campaign, where to place your listings, how much to invest to make sure that the AI helps you understand. So this is a good place to start when you're learning how to use the products. Let the system kind of set it up for you. And same concept for suggested campaigns. We actually manually create these campaigns on your behalf based off of some of the same information, trends, seasonality, what's performing well currently, and help create a particular campaign that is a promoted listings priority campaign for you, place it in a pause status for you to review to determine if you want to activate it or not. But it allows us to use real data to create a strong campaign for you, which has been a very, very effective tool. Now, one thing I will say that I love about this is you can leverage these just to learn and eventually then start to manage and run with your own campaigns. And that's what a lot of sellers do as they're learning how to manage, as an example, our promoted listings priority campaigns. Let's let the system show you where to start. From there, you can identify which listings are performing, which listings maybe not, and only highlight and invest in those listings that are actually driving volume and sales for you. So those things are things you can leverage. And then advertising insights, just easy ways for you to discover more information and content, just give you insights and trends and anything else. So obviously these are all focused on using data analytics and tools to help you optimize your promoting spend. All right. This is one of my favorite slides, and sometimes I end up spending too much time here, but I love strategy when it comes to this, because a lot of times from my perspective, there's so many of our sellers who trying to really figure out, when do I use a general campaign versus when do I use a priority campaign versus when should I focus on promoted stores or promoted offsite? Which one is for me? How do I manage all this, right? And for me, it can be very, very simple when you really simplify what the products are designed to do. And that's what I hope to do for you today. We will do a deep dive. I mean, I say deep dive, we only have so much time. We will go a little farther into the products on some previous pages, but I do want to spend a second here and give you some of my philosophy down in 101, I guess. So priority, we'll start with the priority campaign strategy. For those that are not leveraging this campaign strategy yet or are not quite familiar with it, we launched it not too long ago, so it could seem fairly new to you. Typically, the older campaign strategy that we've had previously was just the general campaign strategy, which is the cost per sale model. The priority campaign strategy is a cost per click model, and that is the industry standard across most other platforms and locations, whether it's Google, other locations you might be selling on. So this isn't new to certain people of what's called the CPC model, right? This model is focused mostly on fixed, well, I should say only on fixed price listings, not available for auctions. Now, the design of this particular product is very different than the general campaign strategy that a lot of you might be familiar with. And I'll tell you why. So let me focus on general campaign really quick. When you're leveraging our general campaign strategies, one of the things that you can focus on, there's many strategies. One that tends to work for a lot of sellers is you can just promote everything and be okay, right? The reason is because it's going to highlight themes, give you visibility, give you that service of visibility, but only charge you when it sales. So it's kind of a simplified aspect of, let me just see what actually is going to catch fire. And then from there, again, you can refine and narrow it down later if you want to, but you'll be okay if you promote everything. You can also, and the more effective way, I should say, to use the general campaign strategy is to focus on your best selling listings, to spend the money and the investment, the ads percentage you want to go after with the general campaign strategy, and make sure that you're highlighting your investment on what's actually going to sell, maybe what you have the most of, sells well, good click-through, sell-through rate, all that information. That works. That's probably the best strategy, but you can be a bit more broad with this particular strategy than the priority strategy. Another one I've seen is I've actually spoken to sellers, and again, this is probably the last strategy I like to throw out there, but you can focus on stale and stagnant listings here and still probably be okay. A lot of sellers tend to have some inventory that's like, it's not moving, it's not selling. I don't care if I lose money, make money. Let me get rid of the inventory. It's something you can do when you have that kind of mind frame for a particular strategy, or just see if the extra visibility helps you clear out your warehouse, whatever the case is. You can do that with this particular strategy, whatever you feel like is something that might work for you and your business. You cannot do that for the priority campaign strategy, right? It's a more aggressive strategy. It's something that's focused very much on highlighting the listings that have a high velocity to sell, lots of competition, very popular items, seasonal items. You know, I showed in the previous slides in the other session about how you can understand what's in season now. So as an example, you tend to have men's shorts right this time of year. That might be the best time now to start using a priority strategy to highlight some of those popular brands or those shorts that you might have that are selling very, very well and get atop of the competition. Because this is a product where you want to focus on a few different things. One, multi-quantity listings. Two, a decent average selling price for the listing. You don't want to focus on this strategy for things you have too low of margins on, such as like $2, $3, $5 items. Like you want to be in that 20 and above, 30 and above range. There is a point where it could be maybe too much, right? $1,000, $10,000 type of listings. Maybe you don't need to in that scope. But this is that range of where you want to focus on a bit better margins, and you know there's some competition out there, which is driving up the price of the listing as well as the need to top the competition. So those are some of the differences there. Again, you can be a bit more broad with general. You want to be way more specific and focus on your best sellers and seasonality with the priority. Now, the promoted stores, I'll go over this briefly. This for me is one that it can be eye-catching. It can be popping. It actually gives you some opportunity, and it is a cost per click model to highlight all of your listings, fixed priced and auction. Get them in the forefront on a banner type of feature on the top of certain pages and visibility that allows a buyer, when they come in, if they're looking for your types of items and they click on your advertisement, now it takes them to your store. You can advertise yourself, your brand, build a brand on eBay, focus on repeat buyers. That's what it's designed to do. For me, it works best from my perspective on sellers who tend to have a particular vertical or category that they sell in. So they have like-minded type of items, maybe not like a thrift store or something that has multiple different types of items in there, because you want them to come in and not necessarily kind of browse. You want them to come in and know these are the types of items I want. And now I'm going to stay on this person's brand and I'm going to look through their items and start purchasing. That's kind of what it would be effective for. But anywhere you want to highlight your brand, that's where you feel like you can do that and highlight your store. And then you have promoted offsite. Now, if you're not familiar with this one yet, this is your opportunity to join our investment in getting more visibility on Google. This is obviously, you know best as a seller whether or not your items are being searched for directly on eBay, mostly in the search engines and platforms. And we are, as eBay, we have a great relationship. We partner with Google. We get visibility on Google. You've probably seen that. This allows you to join that investment and get some more of that consistency in your visibility on Google. where you've noticed you probably get some visibility with your promoted listings, general campaign strategies and whatnot. But it's more sporadic because it's kind of us pulling in things in the partnership with Google. This allows you, if you want to say, hey, I know these items sell on Google, but I'm not getting the visibility. Now you can invest and now you can kind of grow that business there. Today, it is set to where once you start advertising on offsite, the promoted offsite product, it will actually advertise all of your products. And that's the way that it works today. All right. Love this slide. I hope that was helpful information. Let's dive in a little bit more now in depth and some tips on some of the products. The promoted listings general campaign strategy, I've talked a lot about it, so we'll skim over some of this stuff. But obviously, you get the ability to reach more buyers, only pay when you sell, and you advertise with ease. Again, you kind of turn it on, you pick and choose. You can be broad, which is why it makes it more simplified to be able to advertise, and it works. It's effective. I'm sure a lot of you know and have seen that it actually does work. On the left-hand side in the image, you can kind of see what a lot of sellers don't know is kind of what type of visibility that I do get. It's not just focused on the listing search engine page. It's actually focused in multiple different locations. There's over 100 different locations that you could be visible and could appear with all of our advertising products. And this one, you could be in the carousels, banners across the top, checkout pages. There's multiple different locations where your listings could appear that I'm sure that you've seen. All right, the priority strategy now. So this one, like we've talked about, gives you more advanced controls, pay-per-click type of a model, and really help you grow and accelerate your business. Again, you may or may not have products suitable for this. I'll be the first one to tell you if your listings don't support the type of listings that this product requires to be successful, you need to focus on the other products. And that's where it's not about getting you to spend more money on advertising. It's getting you to spend the right amount of money to increase and be more profitable for yourself in the right spaces, right? The general campaign strategy might be best for some people and some people's listings, where if you're in a very much more competitive space and you have multi-quantity listings with good average selling price and a good conversion rate, this is the product that you want to try to leverage. Maybe seasonal products, maybe knowing Q4 rolls around and you have things that just very high competition, but you want to accelerate your sales at that time. This is where you can leverage those particular products for the promoted listings priority strategy. All right. Again, where do they appear? Search pages, our product pages all across eBay. This one, though, is one that does focus a bit more heavily than the other products on the search pages. This is about putting your listing where the buyer that's looking for it is looking. That's why this is a bit more aggressive, where I like to think of the general campaign strategy almost a bit more like a shotgun approach, because it kind of scatters it a bit more across, where this one more pinpoints to find the buyer that's actually looking for your listing. So we avoid clicks without conversion. We want to find clicks to conversion, and that's the point of this particular product. Okay, so a couple best practices or tips to keep in mind when you're creating your priority campaign strategies. You can focus on smart targeting, which again, when you're learning, what this will do is it will create the campaign strategy for you, or the campaign for you. It'll choose your keywords and the listings that will go into this and just kind of create everything for you. Or you can focus on the manual. If you feel like you understand really, really well, you know what listings you want to focus on. Maybe you want to keep it tight and small, or maybe you want to be a bit more broad than the smart target he's bringing in. You can do that. One thing I've seen work really, really well are sellers creating smart targeting campaigns, and then again, learning how the product works, learning what keywords are effective. And then from there, you can find out, okay, these of the 20 listings that are maybe being promoted, these 10 are promoting very, very well. These other ones are just mediocre or maybe not well. Now I'm going to take those out, grab these high promoting and create a manual campaign off of those that are performing. That's been a strategy that I will fully admit works very, very well. And it helps you learn the product and how the product actually works. Okay, we've talked a little bit about this in the previous session, dynamic bidding versus fixed bidding. Again, dynamic allows you to stay competitive and stay atop of the competition, where fixed bidding kind of, you say, hey, I want to just set it right here, and that's where I want it to stay. Now, dynamic bidding doesn't mean that you just keep going up and up and up and up and up and up. You can actually set a cap and say, I want to stay competitive, but I don't want to go over 7%, 10%, whatever that percentage is. You can set a cap and protect yourself in that way. It's best for when you maybe don't know exactly where to put it. and you want to stay competitive and keep things moving. Fixed might be like, yeah, this is just all I'm comfortable with. And maybe you want to kind of stay at that height of that range, maybe 7, but I don't want to do anything else. I just want to keep it at 7. Then, that's something you can do with the fixed bidding strategy. Play around with it as well. Kind of see what works for you. Set a cap to protect your spend also. All right. So priority strategy, best practices. The priority strategy can work well for experienced sellers looking to increase sales and velocity. We've talked about that. Promote high demand, high margined items, as we've talked about. New listings that can benefit from increased traffic. This is a good opportunity to leverage that as well. I didn't bring that up either, but if you're bringing in some new inventory, maybe something that's kind of a hot up and coming item, but doesn't quite have a conversion, you don't know what conversion looks like, but it's something that's just coming just off the market, something you can leverage. One thing we didn't talk about is setting continuous campaign end dates. One thing that's important for me to highlight is when you create a campaign, if you set an end date, again, like I talked about previously, a lot of times what happens is that might end and a seller's like, whoa, my sales kind of dropped, but they forgot they set an end date and their campaign ended. So continuous allows you to keep that going. I always say keep an eye on it. If it's not performing for you, you can end it at any time. But if it ends, the problem is that the system generates and it understands the behavior and it starts to promote your listings better and better over time. Where if that ends and you start over every time, it's resetting that algorithm. And so it's always good to keep a continuous end date. And over time, when you've learned, you'll be comfortable with it. But in the beginning, maybe when you're learning, keep a good eye on it and see how it performs. Be mindful of your daily budgets and bids. If you set a daily budget too low, which if you're not familiar, you can actually say, I only want to spend X amount of money per day. Let's just say it's $30 per day. I don't want to spend any more on cost per clicks. That's usually a decent range, right? Let's say you're like, I only want to spend $5 a day. The problem is a lot of times your budget gets blown through early on, right? And once it gets blown through within a couple hours, you're no longer getting benefit from the sales and so from the product. So that being said, be mindful of where that should be and also what you're comfortable with and play around with it a little bit to see what's working for you. Once you set that cap, it'll never go over that cap, and it keeps an eye on making sure that you don't spend more than you're looking to spend as well. And then use the reporting, like we talked about. Pay attention to the reporting, understand the performance, and play around, try different things. Give it time. I do have to say, make sure you give things time to perform. It's not going to change overnight or in a week, like a couple weeks, at least maximum, to start to see some performance and the algorithm catch up. All right, due to time now, we'll go over, these are quick slides. But again, with this one, we've talked a lot about promoting offsite, maximize your visibility off platform, specifically when maybe, hey, there's a lot of searches on Google that are going for these particular items, high performing items. There's an easy, quick setup, expand your reach past eBay, which, very, very great. Patience, patience, patience. I can't stress that enough. This is now eBay's algorithm and Google coming together. We got to make sure that the algorithm works. And so it does take 2 to 4 weeks for this to fully be optimized and perform for you on your behalf. So keep that in mind. That's why the continuous dates are great. Okay. Whew, we did it. All right. Thank you. I hope that was super helpful. I do want to make sure that we actually go through and see if there's any particular highlighted questions that I can answer here. I know we only have a few minutes, so I'll do that. And hopefully you were able to have some Q&A in the Q&A section. I'm going to be fed some questions here to take a look at which ones that might be best to cover live. So the first one coming from Kevin J. Lipsitz. I hope I said that right. Can you do promoted general and priority at the same time? And if so, how does eBay charge? Do you pay twice, once for the click and once for the sale? So that's a good question, and it comes up quite often. So yes, you can do both at the same time, and you won't necessarily be charged for both. Because what happens is there's placements given to you for both the products. So it depends on where the buyer actually finds you. So if they find you let's say you're promoting with both products, but the buyer finds your item in organic placement, then you won't be charged for either. If they find it in the promoted listings general placement, then you'll be charged for that general sale there. Or if they find it in the cost per click placement, then you'll be charged for that placement being found there as well. So that's a good question. Question from Angelo. For eBay, what is the best practice as to the cadence in optimizing our campaigns? Is there an account manager that can help enterprise sellers? So, okay, well, there's 2 questions here. So best practices for optimizing campaigns, we kind of talked about a little bit, right? Make sure your advertising spend and ad rates are competitive. I didn't talk about this, but listing optimization is so crucial for the performance of your campaigns as well, because visibility will get you just that. It's guaranteed impressions, right? It's guaranteed better visibility, better placements of your listings. But sales come through good, strong conversion, right? So keep that in mind, that when a seller has more confidence in your listing because the pictures are clean, they look good, the titles are clean, you're using item specifics, that can actually, if you're not familiar with item specifics, get familiar with item specifics. That can amplify your position and visibility as well. When the pricing's competitive, you're offering certain features buyers are looking for, the free shipping, maybe 30-day returns, whatever your industry or your products, the norm is for those, is you're staying competitive in those spaces. All of those support your listing optimization, which can support your sales and your conversion. So those are my tips for that. And then a question from Melissa Carter. This will be the last one, I think, due to time. Is there a way to have new listings automatically added to an existing promoted general campaign? I post new products every day, and I have to create a new campaign for them every day. Amazing question. I'm surprised I didn't even cover this, so thank you. But you can actually set some rules when you're listing new listings, to where anything that matches a particular set of criteria, whether it's certain listings, whether it's everything, whether it's only a certain price point, you can set up rules to where when you list new listings, they automatically get dropped into the existing campaign. So encourage you to spend some time, do some research on that. That is a great question, because yes, that is available to you and very much needed for a lot of people that list new listings or create new listings and don't want to focus on what do I add to my campaigns and what do I not. So great. All right. Well, I think we are wrapping up. So I covered a lot. I hope this was helpful. Please drop a note. Let us know if this information was valuable to you. I hope to see you all face-to-face someday in whatever location, or I meet more of you wherever we can. But it's been a pleasure.